because a lot happened in our previous video, I want to explain those things one by one in this video. So I paused asking you to see if you could figure out what was this error that we got. And this is part of the scale of debugging, which frankly, it just takes a long time to learn. And when I was a student, I did not love it when teachers or older students said to me, you know, this will just take years to learn. I kind of resented that. But as a programmer, as an adult now, I actually appreciate that for a reason that I think you might appreciate as well. Because no one ever told me that with a good reason. People just told me that in a very preachy way. So the reason I want to give you is that if you take a posture of thinking that you will learn more and more each day, and you will learn more quickly if you're willing for some of the things you learn to stay a little bit fuzzy and to not always be 100% clear. We'll talk about this conceptually again more, but right now, I'm going to give you something that I expect is going to be a little fuzzy, but it will become more clear over time by using this mental posture. So, attribute error. Int object has no attribute end code. And then if we look up in this trace, we see the real problem is occurring on this line. So again, the line that was just highlighted, this line about attribute error, that's the line where Python is telling us the exact error message we got, but then it's giving us the line from our code that caused the problem. And you might have noticed that what I did is I immediately went and put the str method onto this, because I suspected that using an integer was perhaps an unacceptable key for the purposes of shelve. And I could just say, oh, I got it right, let's move on. But what I want to tell you is I experimented with that. I guessed that would work, and it turned out it did. And I believe what's happening under the hood, I'm going to give you some words, and you get to choose if you want to look these up later. Under the hood, the Python shelve library is using something called pickle to encode this data. And if I had to guess, it's unwilling to encode the data when there's an integer there. So that's the root of the problem, according to my guess. If I find out anything different, I'll let you know in the comments. So because that happened, we had to modify this so that it would be a string. But, so a good thing to do right now would be to pause and turn to your neighbor and try to explain what just happened. I know it's a little bit fuzzy, but that's part of the point. You're understanding it more and more, piece by piece, and as time goes on, you'll be much more familiar with all these different terms. So pause the video, try to explain to your neighbor what that error was, and then when you're done, resume the video. The rest of the things that I want to cover right now is just an explanation of exactly what happened. So in the last few videos, we've been talking about what data we wanted to store. We decided we would bundle those things together into a dictionary, which we decided to call problem data. This is the problem data dictionary for a single problem that's answered by the user. This is not a list of problems, it's a single problem. So for the single problem, those are the pieces of information that we've chosen to store. We are then going to store them along with a particular label, which is the label of the problem number. We're going to store them in the shelf. I'm just going to go ahead and explain exactly what happened down here again. We then said, this could be sort of considered a checksum. I don't know if you've heard that word, so let me type it on a blank screen here. So checksum. This is a word that programmers use. It means, is there some way that I can do some sort of check to see if the right amount of data went in? I'm not going to look at exactly what the data was, but is there some way I can verify that the proper number of data packets went somewhere? This is very common in networking, and this used to be used very frequently, so I want you to know it. Checksum. So we're going to have a sum of something, and that's serving as a check. So I'd say that this is the idea of a checksum, because when I ran that program, let's go look at the output again. When I ran that program, this is the output I got. And again, there's one more subtle thing here, which is why I wanted to explain it. I got this output. And in my mind, when I saw that output, I immediately counted it, and I saw, oh good, there's 5 things there. And if you'll recall, in our program, we were hoping that this loop would run 5 times. So to be really precise, what I did not do is look at the actual data. I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you. But what I did do is I made a checksum in my mind. I saw that there are 5, and indeed, these numbers are coming in. Next question, why are these numbers out of order? Didn't we show them to the user in order? Meaning, n starts at 1. And it gets incremented each time. It gets incremented at the end of this loop, right down here. So why is it that these are not coming in order? I'd actually like you to take a crack at answering that as well. If you can, pause the video and try to think about that. But come back to the video in 30 seconds. Now I'm going to reveal the answer. It turns out that nowhere does Python have a rule about what order it has to store things when they're inside a dictionary. And for all intents and purposes, and especially for today, we're thinking about a shelf as a dictionary. After all, it's something that has keys, and those keys have values. So, big takeaways from today. First of all, errors will become more clear as time goes on, but you can just go with your gut, go with some sort of gut reaction, and read the error. But once you see the error, just take a guess about what might change and see if that works. You won't always be right, but you'll always learn more. And in the best case, you might even get a slightly different error, and that's like 2 for the price of 1. Errors are the best thing ever. So if you make a change and you get a slightly different error, that would have been much better than what happened here, because here I made only one change and the error went away, which was kind of disappointing, right? We didn't get to see any more interesting errors. So I encourage you to do that because, yeah, seeing more errors makes you more smart. So that was lesson number 1. Just try something immediately and see what happens. And lesson number 2 is data inside a dictionary in Python does not necessarily have order. We cannot assume that it has order. So what we've covered is how to place things into the shelf using an operation called create. Next, we're going to go through the rest of the database operations, which are read, update, and delete. That's what we'll cover next time.